She started as a 15-year-old apprentice in a male-dominated workshop and went on to become the first woman to win the WorldSkills national competition for heavy vehicle mechanics. G'day, I'm Shane Jacobson, and this is How You Travelling, a podcast from Healthy Heads in Trucks and Sheds. Today, I'm joined by Louise Azzopardi. She's been through the highs of international competition and the lows of bullying and isolation. And now she's coaching the next generation of tradespeople on how to look after themselves on the job and beyond. Welcome, Louise Azzopardi. I've got to start by asking, how are you travelling?
Yeah, I'm travelling, well, life has thrown some rocks, but we are going all right.
Life's I like that. Life is throwing some rocks. Gosh, so do you stay low? Is it like Ronald McDonald's fire advice? Stay low and go, go, go. Keep your hands in front of your face.
I think
Throwing
it's just
rocks at you.
Yeah. I think it's just adjusting to what's coming at you at the time. Sometimes one method works and sometimes another method works.
Now, I've got to ask. Now, I'm told you should never ask a lady her age, but can I ask how long ago did you start working in the industry? And then you don't have to give an age.
Yeah, well, I'm fine with that. So I'm 29 now. I started my apprenticeship as a heavy vehicle mechanic when I was 15 in 2012. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So it was. So fifth. I've got to ask at the top. What attracted you to working as a mechanic?
Yeah, so I always loved working with my hands. My parents are market gardeners, so they currently are growing tomatoes. So I grew up on the farm, always helping Dad, always wanted to be out of the house with Dad, whether it's picking, packing, or doing repairs and maintenance. I was just in for all of it. Kind of the professional torch holder was my level of experience. But I wasn't one to sit still and I loved learning, but I did not like being kind of forced to learn, told what to learn. In that classroom environment, I was very hands-on. I was very go, go, go. What interested me is what I wanted to learn. So when I was in year 7, I actually tried to leave school, but Mum and Dad wouldn't have it.
In year 7?
Yes. I was can't I just work on the farm? I got a job. I can do stuff. And they're like, no, you got to go to at least year 10, go get some outside world experience, and then you can come back to the farm if you wanted to. So when I was in year 9 and year 10, I was like, cool, I got to work out what I want to do for this exit strategy. And an apprenticeship was the way that I wanted to go, and I decided at the time that I wanted to do motorcycle mechanics because I used to ride and race dirt bikes as well, and I was like, cool, this is, what I can do. I know a lot of stuff already. I did work experience at the bike shop where we used to get our parts from, so they already knew me there, so they took me in, but they only took an apprentice every second year, so it was kind of their off year when I was looking. So I did the work experience anyway, added it to my resume, kept looking around. So all my school holidays in year 10 was work experience. It was getting towards the end and I went to an apprenticeship expo where I met Sarah. So Sarah was actually one of the last people I had conversations with, because I went to the expo with my parents. I was that 15 years old walking through, and I had 3 kind of really standout conversations that night. I had one with me and my dad went up to the stand, and these 2 guys were like, no, we wouldn't recommend this workshop for you. We wouldn't want our nieces or our daughters to work here. Good on you, but not here. Which was kind of, at the time, I didn't really know what that meant. But a few years later, I actually found out that male apprentices had been sexually harassed at that workshop. So it's kind of, now that I'm older, looking back on that, I'm like, it's kind of sad that you guys knew that the culture was like this, but nothing was being done about it. So, yeah.
Because that's such an interesting point, Louise, that they were willing to take action to make sure that you didn't enter that space, but no one was taking action to make sure it was a safe space for others who were already there who may go there in the future.
Yeah.
So you're saying there were males experiencing already in that workplace sexual harassment?
Yeah.
Let alone
women. So I didn't hear off any of the actual, the people themselves. It was more rumors and stuff like that. But kind of my thing. Like, not all rumors are true, but usually they're based on some sort of truth in the beginning. And I'm like, guys, if you knew that, and even those actions that those blokes were taking to say, hey, go into the industry, but not here, like, the boys deserve that respect, that care as well, to have a safe workplace.
Yeah, well said. Just recapping, you're 15 and you decide you've been working on motorbikes because you've ridden motorbikes and raced motorbikes, and you're like, I want to be a mechanic. But then you decide to become a diesel mechanic. That's in fact where you set your sights.
Yeah, that's it.
I've got to ask firstly, was your dad stoked when he realised you're going to be a diesel mechanic? If he's on a farm and he's got a tractor, finally someone can fix the tractor.
Yeah, well, we're all pretty hands-on at home, so anything that's on the farm, we fix it with or without a qualification, you know. Sometimes there may be a qualification needed, but we get it done anyway.
Yeah, outback mechanics. That's how it works.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, going through that, like the expo with mum and dad, like the next stand that I went to after that conversation, I was still like, motorcycle mechanics was where I had my eyes on. And this guy gave me this big lecture about how I couldn't be a motorcycle mechanic because I was a girl and I would be too small to push the bikes around. And I was like, what? And he went on for about 10 minutes. And I was like, what's happening here? And Dad's like, oh, come on, let's go. Let's keep going. And I was like, no, let's just go home. Like, there's no point in this. And that's when I met Sarah just after that. So Sarah was the same height as me, the same build as me. And she was a first-year diesel mechanic. And her existence literally disproved everything this guy had said wrong.
How old was she at that point?
She was a little bit older. I think she was 20 or 21 at the time. Right. But yeah, so she was a bit more mature than I was. But she's same build, same height, everything that this guy used against me to say, hey, you couldn't be a mechanic because of A, B, and C, Sarah was there doing it.
So at 15, when you started what I assume was an apprenticeship, you were the youngest at 15 there and the only female.
So I wasn't the only female. Sarah was also there, so she was the year ahead of me.
Right, she was the year ahead of you.
Yeah.
But you were the youngest by a long shot.
Yeah, there was another guy they took on that was 15, but he was a few months older than me.
Right, there you go. So you're 15. Other than Sarah, who's 22, who's years your senior and ahead of you, you're a 15-year-old girl in amongst all a male-dominated space. What was it like to start with? As soon as you got there, could you feel the eyes of your fellow students upon you? You know, was it already an uncomfortable situation, or was it something that got worse over time?
It's something that was majority good. There was just a few people that didn't appreciate me being there. So generally 99% of the guys that I met were great. They're in the workshop itself. I felt like I didn't get treated any differently from 99% of the people around. I was in that year, because I was working for quite a large company, we had an apprentice onboarding with all the apprentices from the East Coast getting together. And I was the only girl in that cohort there. But I didn't feel isolated or anything. It was kind of like I looked around and I realized there was no one else that looked like me there. But at that current time, full of teenage audacity, that was not an issue at that point in time.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I went to TAFE, that was slightly different. Like, I did notice the boys kind of staring at me a lot, and I had this really great party trick where I could make the room go quiet just by walking in, and the teachers were trying to get the boys to do that for ages, and I'd just walk in and everyone would be silent.
What does that feel like, though? Because that must have an impact on you, because you know just by entering a room that something has changed because you've entered the room. You haven't done anything, you haven't said anything, there's no inference, you literally just walk into a room. What does that feel like?
It's like all eyes are on you. It's kind of like you're different and people notice that you're different. And it's kind of like, okay, do I belong here? Is that why these other people are acting differently? Because I am here.
So that already had that effect on you. It already made you doubt whether you're supposed to be there just because the room goes quiet. You're like, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. When
I first started, I was like, this is where I am. So I had that momentum behind me. a few years in where I did manage to pick up a bully, got me one of those, that's when I think everything started to kind of be louder in my head. Like these little moments with, you know, the boys going silent when I went in, they were like, oh yeah, cool. Like, have these guys ever seen a woman before? I'm not an alien. And you like move on with your life. But when someone is kind of isolate, like picking on you day in and day out, and it's bringing your confidence down, a lot of those thoughts that I could brush off quite easily, they weren't brushing off. They were sticking. They were like, okay, this guy is, you know, saying that I'm not good enough, that I'm only here to get with guys, that, you know, I'm always distracted, that I'm not supposed to be here. Oh yeah, look at all these other moments that have happened in my career that actually back up what this guy is saying. And that's when they kind of got really loud.
How long did it take for it to get to the point that it was the negativity was louder in your head than the positivity that you went into that classroom with at the start? How long do you reckon it took for it to have that effect on you?
Probably about 3 years. I think when I was a third year and towards the end of my third year is when it kind of started hitting the hardest.
I want to jump to a good bit, if I can, Louise, which is you've just said after 3 years of people kind of filing away your edges, if you will, that you got to the point of like, you know, maybe you thinking I shouldn't be here. All the doubts that were small little voices in the corner of your mind then became the loudest voices in your head. But you actually went on, as I said in your intro to our audience, you went on to win the WorldSkills national competition for heavy truck mechanics. So you were supposed to be there, weren't you? And at that point, I assume you were doing so well that you got to the point that you were, you know, you were kind of best in class, to say the very least. And yet, so well, first, can we are we allowed to brag a little bit about that? Just talk to me about that. Just let our audience know how big a deal that is, and then we'll come back to the fact that the voices in your head couldn't even accept that victory. Can we just talk about? Can you not be humble for a moment? Go for it. Can you please explain to our audience how successful you were?
I have a medal. When some people say, hey, do you want a medal for that? I'm like, I already got one. But yeah, that was a journey that started when I was a fourth year apprentice. Like I said, I worked for a fairly large company, and we just did engines. Our qualifications on the whole truck, but engines is our main thing. So we quickly did some revision in that week going into the regional competition. So taking a step back, WorldSkills competition, like the Olympics for tradies, it's run regionally, nationally and internationally in pretty much any subject that you can do a TAFE course in. So you got hairdressing, nursing, boilermaking, electrical, beauty therapy, it's all there. It's if you ever get the experience to go to a WorldSkills competition, regional, national or international, definitely recommend going to see it. So we were there, went into the regional competition. And yeah, some of this other stuff that we're talking about before, that was happening in the background. My confidence was a bit low there. And I was like, okay, I want to set myself an achievable goal for this competition. So my goal was not to come last. I was like, that is within reach. We will get a good win feeling out of that. It's
a humble goal, isn't it? Just don't want to finish last. I get it. A lot of people listening will go, you know what? I get it. So, it's a low bar you've set. Go on.
Yeah, that's it. So, went in. The competition went for a day. We had 6 different areas that we were being kind of assessed on. So, they kind of run like breakdown situations. So, it's like a breakdown in the truck electrical system, in the gearbox, in the powertrain, in the hydraulics, because it was mobile plant as well. So, we did some hydraulics and stuff in there too. Engine rebuilding side of things as well. Engine electrical, and then truck electrical. I think I blurred them up in there, but there were 6 categories in there. Went in, kind of was just excited and enjoying the experience. Like I got to meet some other mechanics that I didn't know that were at a similar level to me, working at different workshops. And I really got to see what I didn't know. And rather than like using that to like put myself down in that particular headspace at the moment, I was like, oh, there's so much out there for me to learn. Like this is so cool. And then in the engine side of things, I was like, yep, I've got this nailed. I know what I'm doing. And I went through and I just gave it the best shot that I could. That, you know, I had my 45 minutes for each station. And if I was stumped, I would just try something else to see if that would work to fix the problem or the next step, or do a task that I'm like, I think this is kind of related from memory, so I'm just going to do this and give it a shot. And it worked. It worked. I actually came second in that regional competition, which was, a few spots higher than not last.
Yeah. And from there, so you're second regionally, and then?
And then so first place usually goes automatically to nationals. So second, I kind of just missed out on that automatic entry to nationals. So I didn't know straight away if I was going. I actually found out about 4 or 5 months later that there was a few spots at nationals that could be filled. So they're like, yep, Louise, you can go to nationals. And my mentality changed a little bit. From the goal of not coming last, I was like, none of this second bullshit. Like, we are in it to win it. Like, we can do this. We have tasted it. We can get this.
It's funny. Small taste of victory, isn't it? If you get, it is so true, isn't it? When you at the start, you're trying to go, look, I just don't want to disappoint myself, so not being last will be enough. And then when you realise you're actually better than you've accepted you are, then you go, hang on a moment. It's a common thing I hear, actually, that when people go in there not expecting too much of themselves and then realise that they have more ability than they're aware of, they go, well, hang on a moment, how far can I push this? Yeah. So you're now at nationals.
So now I'm going into nationals, and I kind of finished early, and I had this kind of feeling where, like when you finish a test early and you hand it in and nobody else has done it, and you're like, did I miss a page?
Did I miss something?
What is going on? Yeah. So I had that kind of feeling there, and I went in, the competition finished. We had the closing ceremony where they do the medals and stuff, and they called out, heavy vehicle mechanics. They called out third place, second place, and then first place was me. And that feeling, that high, it was, I can't explain it. It was just unreal to know that I had done that.
Well, here's the thing. So we said a little while ago that the bullying had started during your schooling, and it started to whittle away your confidence, for the want of better terms. So 4 years later, you're in this competition. You have this question in the back of your head that's starting to enter your mind, which is, I shouldn't be here. It's the imposter syndrome, all of that. And then when they go bronze, silver, and when they get to gold, you hear the name Louise Azzopardi. That's you, which is confirmation you're absolutely where you should be. In fact, top of the class. Was that enough to convince your mind you were where you're supposed to be, or had the bullies done their work so well that, in fact, they were still beating your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the bullies kind of teamed up with my mental health taking a dip as well. Whether or not it was cause and effect, I don't know. But it wasn't enough. It almost made it worse. By the time that I got that high and I was at that level, it brought in a different layer. It brought in a lot of perfectionism. And striving for that perfect result is great until it becomes crippling, where it's like it has to be perfect or it's not worth it. It has to be perfect. Otherwise, people are going to know that you're a fake. People are just going to tell you got lucky, you're one-hit wonder. And that it kind of changed to that afterwards.
God, that's amazing to think that it got worse. I just assumed it was going to make it slightly better. I hadn't factored in that at that point that your brain is going, now I've got to prove that I'm that good. But in fact, getting that gold was the proof. You were in a competition where you were scored against others at your level with your peers, and you won against them. But your brain said to you, I've got to prove to everyone else that result is right, which is incredible when you think about the fact you're now giving yourself the job of being a judge of talent, when in fact they were the judges that actually judged you for that competition. And now you've decided you've got to do that for yourself moving forward. So it got worse for you. So here we are. So you've got, at this point, you're in your fifth year. Are you? So you're at the
qualified.
End of, you've qualified, and all these, and so you're ticket in hand, gold medal in the other hand, and you're going, I still shouldn't be here. And if I'm going to stay here, I've got to prove to everyone that I need to be here.
With that pressure on top that I had placed on me, nobody else had placed that pressure on me. Like, some guys had said a few smart comments. Like when I was in my apprenticeship, I had won some awards at TAFE. And there was one time when I was in class and I was like, hey, we had the awards night and I got an award. And at that point, it was another award. And the boys were just like, why does she get an award? Are you guys just showing off the girls? Like, do we even stand a chance? Like, is there any point in trying? Like, that's what these boys were saying that were my mates. And they probably thought they were just standing up for themselves, working out where they stood. But in my mind, that's what my brain attached to. Like, is it just because I'm a girl that I am getting these opportunities, coupled with the award and then going through WorldSkills, knowing that I could do it and people around me saying they could do it. But those little voices that I only got this opportunity because I was a girl, am I taking this opportunity away from other people, was one kind of thought path my brain was going down. And that kind of really stepped me back. And now I'm coaching other girls, and when there are quotas and stuff like that to have women in workplaces, people are telling women that you only got this job because you're a girl, because there's a quota, you took this job from my son, nephew. And that's actually being said to women these days. But in my time, it wasn't being said to me often. It was said to me in one instant, and my brain latched onto that. So I couldn't really imagine how it would be for the girls who are actually getting that said to them all the time because of these quotas.
So you just touched on what you're doing now. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. It's so disheartening to hear you say that your friends were having a go at you for having had these victories, because in my world, my friends rejoice all my victories, and all my friends, I celebrate their victories, and that's what makes them a friend. So it must have made you doubt your friendships as well, which is another level as well, let alone your professional scenario with you thinking maybe I'm not supposed to be here, the imposter syndrome of the job you're doing, but now you've got friends who aren't celebrating your victories. And again, that would bring friendship under the spotlight of question, if you will. So before we talk about what you're doing now and how you turn things around, the turning point for you. So you've put all this pressure, in your own words, you said you've put that pressure on yourself, but I think some people listening would be thinking, if you hadn't been bullied at all, maybe these thoughts wouldn't have entered your head. And as you say, you don't know because we can't rewind the clock. But you got to a point where the self-doubt's still spinning around inside your head, and there was a powerful moment, I believe, where someone just said the simple words, "Are you okay?" Mm-hmm. Was that the turning point? Is that the true story?
Yeah. So when someone asked me if I was okay, it was around the time of that regional WorldSkills competition. And I had been in a situation where, the bully had been saying things to me over and over again, and I was actually adjusting a fan belt on an older truck. So I was using a pry bar to pull I think it was the alternator from memory out to tighten the fan belt, and the bar slipped and it bumped me in the head. I told my supervisor, and he's like, cool, if you get dizzy, if you can't think, let us know. And I went back to him a bit, and I'm like, I can't focus. Now looking back at it, I think that was my first panic attack that I ever had. And so he kind of knew, it's like, probably not the bump on your head, but put you in the first aid room. And he got the admin administrator manager to come in and just sit with me. And she asked me, are you okay? And I just broke down. It just kind of all came out, what had been happening, and in that point, kind of what I had done as well. So being a 15-year-old, I really wanted to fit into that workplace. I was with other kids in that workplace. And, when guys and girls are at school, hookups happen, that kind of stuff happens. I ended up, in my first year, I had a relationship with one of the other apprentices. He told me, don't tell anyone at work. So, we don't interrupt with work. Turns out he had a girlfriend. Then I found out about that, and I kind of was upset about that. And then I found out that he had spread rumors about me, or told everyone that he had quote unquote got me, which was what this bully was telling me over and over again. Oh, Luke got you, so-and-so's interested in you, are you just going to go with him again? And that was that flavor of bullying. So for me, it was kind of like, I am part of the problem. I am part of the reason why people just think women want to get into the trades to get with guys. And that was one of the main things that I was telling myself.
God, I can't even believe that would be a thought that people... Isn't that interesting? Because I think the opposite. When I knew I was going to get a chance to speak to you and I got told about you, I was so fascinated and so I was in admiration of your bravery to want to enter this male-dominated space, you know, doing a diesel mechanic, for goodness sake. I just saw bravery. There's no way I would see that as some kind of coliseum you've got to enter. But to think that the guys, or that some individuals were saying and getting you to believe within yourself or casting aspersions that a woman would go into a place like that just to pick up guys. I mean, I've got to say I'm embarrassed to be a man when I hear that, because it's just, for me, as a grown-up male, I just think the opposite. I can't think of a scenario more uncomfortable than you having to enter that workspace. So the fact that they got that to go in your head, it shocks me, to be honest. It's, again, this is what I love about this podcast, is because hopefully people listening are going through what I go through. Every time I get to speak to someone like yourself, I learn. And you know, that's why my eyes are wide, my ears are open, because I keep learning. I just assume people would have thought you were brave because you were brave. That is the fact. I know I'm not wrong about that, but I've now found out what I'm wrong about is how other people are going to paint that, and they're going to say, you're just here to pick up men. I can't believe that. So one commonality I'm discovering is, are you okay? As we know, there's a day called Are You Okay Day. We keep saying that should be every day. You know, this country was built on, in the old days, she'll be right. And what it was the weirdest patch. It would tell people not to let off the valve. You go, she'll be right, hang in there, mate, tough it out, all that kind of stuff. It literally, we're now understanding now what that does is it tells people to keep their finger on that valve, don't let any air out of that valve, no steam out of it. Someone says to you, are you okay? And you are aware without being self-aware that you're not okay. And that was the moment that it literally let all that pressure out for you. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's it. It all kind of came tumbling out. And, you know, after that is actually when the isolation hit in, because it was taken further to HR for duty of care reasons. There was an investigation, and because this rumor had been spread around and people had seen this guy, you know, saying these comments to me, then we went through ethics investigation where everything was brought up over, you know, this went on for about 6 months, and kind of every joke that I had laughed at, that I joined in on, every kind of, you know, bit of banter that I had participated in was like, yep, Louise said this, so this meant that this comment was okay. Kind of all came out. Everything that I thought I was doing to try and fit in, laugh it off, because I had reached my limit, crossed my boundary without knowing that I had crossed the boundary with this guy, you know, bringing up this past relationship and kind of connecting it to a new friendship that I had. It had built so much pressure in me that I was trying to laugh everything off. I was trying to be one of the boys, but I had crossed the line. Like, it had crossed the line for me that these comments were not okay. And I didn't set that line. I didn't say, hey, you know, I'm more than happy to take a joke, but this is not something I find funny. Please stop.
But you were still trying to fit in at that point. I mean, to give you a break, you know, I mean, for me to say to you, let's cut you some slack here. You went, like, it started at 15, like you're still in your teens. You're in your teens and you're trying to fit in. I mean, that's all of us anywhere. That's all, it's every teen anywhere on the planet. You're in a set of circumstances where just life in general, you just want to fit in. You want to be liked. I mean, who doesn't want to be liked? Yeah. I mean, the Want to Be Liked Club is just called humanity, as far as I'm aware. I mean, there are a few individuals who, obviously, that's not their main focus, but for the most part, it's called humanity, yeah.
It's part of survival.
Isn't it? Yeah, and you know what? Yeah. And the same thing's been said about racism in the past, that people go, you know, there's one person that's amongst a group of friends that's of a different nationality, and they throw a few jokes around at that person's expense, and they laugh along with it because they want to fit in. They want to go, hey, guys and girls, don't do that, because that automatically sets them further away from the group and they won't fit in. And then after a while, as you say, everyone goes, they're completely okay with that, never thinking to ask the person, are you okay with that? You release the truth, which is you're not okay, and then you have to endure a 6-month investigation into the whole scenario where then there's some guilt being applied to you that, well, you know, you were laughing at some of this stuff, so clearly it was okay with you. What's changed? And so how did you survive that? I've got now people listening. We've got to this bit. How? Because now I have to ask because I don't know how you can survive that. How do you come out the other side of that?
Yeah, so I think the WorldSkills competition put me in a position where I was almost like living two lives. I had this going on at work and I had the competition going on outside of work. And I also had my part-time job that I was working on the weekends. And I remember sitting with a friend.
What was that job? What were you doing on weekends?
I was working at a place called the Tractor Shop and we were servicing and maintaining farms.
You just want to fix stuff all the time.
Yeah. I've been off the tools since 2018 and I'm really feeling that itch right now in the moment.
We're going to come back to that in a second, what you're doing now, but keep going.
Yeah. So I had that job on the weekend and I was talking to a friend. She wasn't really even a close friend. We were at a kind of a family barbecue and I was saying, you know what, I'm thinking of leaving the trade. I might go do engineering or something else. And she's like, but this job on the weekend, that's mechanics, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, you like that job, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, why can't you just work there full time? And I was like, bro, like, didn't even cross my mind. Like, I was so in it and in my head that, you know, this job was like this. And I was never going to be able to get away from the bullying, away from that self-pressure. That's just how the job was. But I had the same role, mechanic, at a different workplace, and it was totally different. It was not the same whatsoever. So I ended up changing workplaces, and like my confidence was pretty shot at this point, day to day in the workplace. And I had a really nice boss. It was 3 of us working there, me, the boss, and an apprentice, and then the wife did all the paperwork and HR kind of thing, and they gave me a shot. They said, okay, let's take you on. Like I said, I just had that engine experience, and that was another story that I was telling myself, like, who is going to take on a girl that just has engine experience? Like, I'm never going to be able to get a job outside of this workplace, which was not true. I proved that to myself just with honesty and being open to learn. And now I have that conversation often with like my clients as well about specializing in the trade.
So Louise, you find yourself in a first aid room with someone who I think would be known to you, I assume, who works in the workplace, but you're not necessarily best friends, who says the words to you, "Are you okay?" You've finally realised you're not okay. You know you're not okay, but you finally said out loud to someone else the words leave your mouth and enter someone else's ears, "I'm not okay." The pressure valve is released. I assume you fall apart in that moment because you've now said it out loud, and the voice in your head has now been heard in a room by another human. What happened from there? What was your, dare I say it, your mental health journey from there? I'm assuming we can call that the lowest point. What happens from there?
Yeah, at that point in time, that was my lowest point. I think from there, going through the ethics investigation and kind of my view on that ethics investigation, from where I was sitting, it was like they were trying to find someone to blame for that situation.
So the workplace ran you through an ethics investigation.
Yeah, it went for about 6 months. I was investigated. People in the workshop were investigated. It created some isolation because I'm assuming that some of the boys thought, okay, well, if we talk to Louisa, we might get pulled into this again, and we don't want to be part of this. We don't want to have our head on the chopping block for talking to her. So I felt really isolated in that time, which kind of led me down to what I would probably call at that point in time into a depressed state, which I didn't know, I didn't have language of at the time, but I had the person who asked me okay was actually my support person through the ethics investigation. So if anyone is actually going through an ethics investigation or a HR investigation, you can have a support person with you, and I 110% recommend that. She come in, she knew everything that was going on, and then after those meetings, we would have a debrief, and the shame was so heavy. I could not see through that moment. I couldn't say I've done this to myself and I'm never going to get out of this was how I was talking to myself. She actually encouraged me to call Lifeline at one point in time, which was quite helpful. And then I booked in. I saw my GP to see a mental health practitioner. I saw a counsellor first. I saw him for quite a while. He gave me a lot of tools that I could implement to help change like my self-talk, what I was believing about myself, and also to see that there was a life outside of work. Work was not the only thing that was happening. This moment was not the only thing that was ever going to happen in my life, that there was stuff outside of this.
So the two things, if I'm allowed to try and identify two things here. Number one, someone said to you, "Are you okay?" That was the first valve release. Mm-hmm. Then the next bit is, I mean, if I can try and simplify it, it's probably too simple, but knowing when to leave is to leave that environment, because it is, gosh, as we know, all animals know how to do it in a bushfire. When it just gets too hot, they run. And I'm not saying you have to do that quickly, but when it gets to the point that it's dangerous and they're going to get hurt, animals, as you know, birds, monkeys do it like they do it. They fled the tsunami before it hit Indonesia. Did you know that? There's things with the birds. There's some animals just go, this is just not a great environment to be in, and they leave before the trouble starts. Some of them have this innate ability to do so. But we as humans tend to stick around, don't we, quite often? And I get why. There's pride, there's ego, there's all kinds of things. There's to prove it to yourself. There's all that kind of stuff. But would you say you did hang in there just too long because you wanted to prove all these things? You wanted to prove to yourself, prove to others, and all that kind of stuff. Is that why you think you might have stayed perhaps too long?
Perhaps. I did get through that ethics investigation, everything come out about that. And then I had a supervisor that kind of started that bullying again. And I was
a supervisor?
like... Okay. Yeah, he needed some leadership training for sure.
It's very well worded.
Yeah, some people just need some extra training.
I reckon I would describe it differently, but I like the way you package that up. That's very good.
Yeah.
You needed some leadership training.
Needed some training. And I was, like I said, I think people in the trucking industry can probably work out what company I was working for. But it was quite a well-known company, a company that people had a lot of pride in. Sometimes that company was perceived as people's goals. Like, isn't it amazing to work there? That's such a great company. They got such a great name. And I was in it, and I was like, I'm not seeing it. Just not seeing it. So I had that kind of like, people are telling me that it's really good. People that I respect, that I love, that I trust, that have a lot of pride in the industry are telling me that this is a really great company.
That you're on a winning team kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, it doesn't feel this way. So that was probably another thing that kind of held me on, if we're going to say too long. All the lessons that I've learned is stuff that I use day to day all the time now. But if in that moment, part of the too long was probably the fact that I was telling myself I was a girl and no one's going to employ me because I was a specialist, and because people had a lot of pride in this particular company, that I was like, I must be missing something here.
Yeah.
So
Especially
kind
when
of
you're being
held me
told
back.
that you are working in the castle on the hill.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't like working in the castle.
Nah.
Send me to the farm down the bottom of the hill.
Pretty much. And that's literally what it is. We were in this guy's shed, back of his house. We would go to farms, work in the dirt on all this random equipment, on customers who were like, we can't buy new equipment, so you have to fix it. No matter what it is, please do it. And it was one of those jobs where the boss at the time, he said, Louise, this is where you're going to learn to be a real mechanic.
Yeah.
Out in the paddock, you're looking at the stuff, you're trying to work out how it works, what it's actually supposed to do, because you didn't see it working properly before it broke down, and now you're here and it's broken down, and you're like, I don't even know what this is supposed to do, but we have to get it to do that thing.
and you don't have a workshop around you. You've got the tools you've taken with you, kind of thing, isn't it? That's the thing about kind of field mechanics, if you will. So tell us what you're doing now, because what you're doing now, I said a little bit about it in the intro, but tell people what you're doing now, because now you're passing your knowledge in every sense of the term or words onto future generations. Tell us what you're doing now.
Yeah. So in 2021, I left full-time work to start my own business doing life coaching and mentoring for tradeswomen and tradies. I kind of reached this point in my career. I got off the tools 2018. I started working as a trainer and assessor full-time, so teaching heavy vehicle and plant mechanics, which I really, really loved. But even in that situation, working for another large, well-known company, one of those, I kind of call them legacy companies, one of those companies. And on the inside, I was like, this is not matching up. You're preaching flexibility, you're preaching support for women. And I'm like, men are getting their parental leave turned down. They're not able to get flexibility. And then seeing the students with doing a trade and being on the tools and in any work environment, but specifically a trade, you're learning off your peers. If you don't have good communication skills with them, you don't know how to set boundaries, you don't know how to recover from mistakes, you're not going to be able to learn. And I was seeing this more and more. And I was like, there's got to be something I can do about it. We can't just keep being told to have thick skin. Like, I reached this point where I feel like thick skin was the advice that I was getting in. And I was like, I felt like I was a walking callus. Like, I don't know what else to do. I have the thickest skin that I can. Why is this still happening? And I was seeing it happen to other people. During COVID, I discovered coaching, being online. There was a coach. He was like, so random. I don't even know how I come across him. He was doing coaching for middle-aged professionals who felt lost in their jobs. And I watched some of his webinars. I'm like, this coaching thing, I think this could help blue-collar people. Like, who's doing this for tradies? And then I found out nobody was doing it for tradies at the time. And I'm like, look, I can do this. I think I can do this. So as you do, I left my job. I did get another part-time job because I'm not that silly, but I got another part-time job and, was trying to make this work, being like, cool, life coaching is a really good skill combined with mentoring to help people to create change, to change for themselves in their internal world, change in their external world, so change in their workplace, in their culture, in their different relationships, to be able to do the things that they love. So everything comes back to me for the love of trucks. Like, I love trucks. I love seeing big trucks down the road. Like, even I was driving home from the gym and, like, some guy was going through the 18 speeds and I'm like, yes, you do that. I love the sound of the engine. I'm like, yes. But nothing should stop people from doing what they love. No bullying, no harassment, not racism, not sexism. Like, these things are all preventable barriers that are in place. We should be able to take them down.
I just wish I had have known you a few months ago because master cylinder's gone on my F700 truck that I'm restoring. But anyway, I might talk to you after the podcast because I've got a few more bits to fix before this thing gets back on the road. I wish I knew you just a touch earlier. In your role now, what are the most common, would you say, common things that for people listening now, there might be some people listening now who are about to embark on a journey that may turn out to be similar to yours in a workplace where they find themselves the victims of bullying, or they might be halfway through that journey. They might be in it right now. Or there may be parents listening to this that have children who are going through it. What are some of the common things that you find that you have to tell young people going through a work environment that are some good tools that they can quickly onboard?
Yeah, one of the I wouldn't say a quick fix, but one that works in majority of situations is it's not that serious. When we're in the workplace day in, day out, it feels like that this person's word is the absolute truth, especially if it's coming from a supervisor or a peer that they respect. They take that kind of as gospel almost, like, okay, this person's word is the absolute truth. I need to take it. I need to embody it. And when it turns negative, or even if they say something, even if it's not a bully all the way, it's like someone's having a bad day and something's gone wrong and they're like, you stuffed it up. Sometimes that's just in the moment. It's not that serious. Take a step back. It's not the end of the world. Separate, like, work is not that serious. Take a step back. If things go pear-shaped at work, it's okay. Just take a step back. The mistake that you made, it's not career ending. Take a step back. Because once we take that step back, we can actually find solutions. It's like, okay, cool. This supervisor is not good. Let's take a step back. All right, do we need to set a boundary? Is this supervisor ever going to change? Is it just actually something that I need to actually take action on? Is this supervisor telling me something that I need to fix? So we can take a step back when we're not so in it. It's not that serious. Take a step back. Do we need to set a boundary? Do we need to improve our performance? Do we need extra training? Do we need to change workplace? Then you can ask yourself those questions.
It's interesting, isn't it? I've worked in workplaces before. I'm talking when I was much younger, where there were individuals in factories and stuff. I scrubbed machines in factories and worked in foundries and did all kinds of jobs just to make a bit of coin on school holidays. and worked in some smaller warehouses. And there were certain people that, you know, may have been in charge of a small area, or, you know, not necessarily a supervisor, not necessarily a manager as such, but as the supervisor, but not one of the big managers. But I had circumstances where there were individuals who were never going to give you a compliment. And of course, they're the ones, for whatever reason, it's in human nature. You really, when you're not getting it from them, you really hope to do something at some point that will force them or cause them to say, well done. Because it does feel good to be complimented on a job well done, doesn't it? And especially in a workplace, sometimes, and I get why some people, it is important to them to do well in their workplace, because for some people, they feel that what they do for a job it actually forms who they are, in part, which we know not to be the truth. But, you know, you talk about musicians, and actors suffer it all the time, and musicians do, that they think what they do as a musician or as a performer it forms exactly who they are. So if all of a sudden someone has a go at their performance, I think everything crashes for them. If they get a bad review for a movie, their whole world collapses. And you go, if you're a husband or a wife or a father or a friend to people, there are so many other things that you do. You might be contributing to the household financially, emotionally, or whatever. If you're raising children, my God, you're so much more than that to them. I'm going to revert back to animals again. When animals go to a watering hole in hope to get water because they need that to survive, once that dries up, they move on. I mean, they may go back and visit that water hole occasionally to see if that has got water again, but they will go and search for another water source. It's interesting as humans how once we sometimes pick our target, they're going to keep trying to impress that manager in the hope to get watered in compliments. Yeah. That, in fact, they don't know that they're looking in the wrong spot for the water, aren't they?
That's it. And I've got a few analogies to that with people relate to. It's like people say, you know, there's a saying, you know, the grass is only green where you water it. Like, not always green up. But if you're watering concrete, you are not going to get any grass.
There you go.
But then also another thing, if you've got a pot plant that is in a bad environment, you move it to a new environment. You don't leave it in that environment and tell it that it's stupid.
Yeah.
You move it.
There needs to be. There never was. When I was a kid, there was no HR. There was no resource for the humans, which was just ironic. In fact, all the care was taken on the machinery to make sure they don't break down, but no care was paid. There was no maintenance. There was a really small first aid kit in a rusted box in the bathroom. Like, seriously, I've worked in these foundries, and you just went there, no one had ever been near the first aid kit. It was just rusted old box. And there was people running everywhere, servicing all the machinery. For people to look after themselves in a workplace, they can't do their job. If someone's mental health gets to the point that it's debilitating, they can't actually do their job, can they? Like you know, it wouldn't matter how good they are at their skill set, whatever it may be. If a workplace isn't looking after the individuals, and if an individual isn't looking after themselves, they can't actually really perform their job properly, can they?
No, that's it. When you're distracted, or even when you're just down all the time, where you're feeling panicked, anxiety, like anxious, you've got a range of feelings coming up. They're in the way of you being performing to standard, or even being a high performer, depending on where you're at. If work is the place where you're expecting to get your joy, and you're not getting any of that outside of work, then yeah, if work turns pear-shaped and you're not getting any joy from that, and you're not getting any joy outside of work, then it's not going to be great. You're going to feel exhausted. You're going to start to kind of lean towards those burnt out feelings. And depending on how your mental health is, you might go down different paths as well. When you have areas in work and outside of work that you enjoy, whether it's putting more emphasis on friendships, on hobbies, on your home environment, on other goals that you're working towards, whether they be fitness goals or different goals that you have going on in your hobbies, money goals. If you don't have anything else to work for, to look forward to, or to get joy out of, then yeah, if your joy leaves at work, then you can find yourself feeling really stuck and not performing. And one of the things is, especially if we are struggling with our mental health, and we are not caring about ourselves, sometimes that can lead to us being physically unsafe if we are not worried about our own health and well-being.
Because you went through those things where I imagine, as a result of the bullying that you were experiencing, and being in an environment where you realised there's people around you who've got a laser on you in some way. I imagine while you're trying to complete a task or work on an engine, and here you are problem solving, because let's be honest, what you're doing as a mechanic is you're always problem solving. There's something is broken and you've got to fix it. and the irony that you might be broken emotionally while you're trying to do that. But while you're trying to focus on problem solving to get an engine running again or getting something going again, I imagine the distraction of knowing there's people, especially in the situation that you were in a male-dominated space, where already some people had it in for you, and you can feel their eyes on your back and the lasers on you while you're trying to work. I mean, that is when accidents can happen, isn't it? And that is if you're not really focused on just the job at hand, if you've got all that fog and noise around you.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you can't perform at your best, but also that is when accidents can happen, isn't it?
Accidents happen. And being in the trucking industry, where either we've known someone personally or, 6 degrees of separation from someone who has had an accident that could have been prevented if either someone felt confident to speak up, if someone was focusing a little bit more. These kind of things, like you look at sometimes situations from the outside and you can say, okay, A, B, and C went wrong, and these are things where they could have, prevented that accident. But if those people were struggling, distracted, didn't feel comfortable speaking up, then these are the kind of things that do lead to physical accidents as well.
Now, just for me to be glass half full, I do believe that I don't like the expression "what doesn't kill you makes you stronger," because it just means if it didn't kill you, then there's something great that's come out of it. I believe that's not true in many cases. No. But the experiences you gather certainly form who you are at the end, and the bits that harden up. I mean, sometimes when one muscle gets exercised more than the other, that muscle does, irrespective of the hardship, grow stronger and tougher. And so, do you think? If you hadn't have had the journey you've had, 15 going into male-dominated environment, diesel mechanic, experience the bullying, work in a culture that is not supportive at all, you come out the other side, you win a national competition, which proves your worth, but in fact that actually makes you apply more pressure to yourself. And then you finally change workplace, find the joy in being a mechanic again, in the thing you wanted to do in the first place. The 14, 15-year-old girl that went, I want to do that you got to go and enjoy that again. Do you think you'd be doing what you're doing now if you hadn't had that journey? Because now you've chosen to. And I mean, the things sometimes, I don't think a lot of life is a happy accident. I think sometimes it happens for reasons. Do you think you're doing this because of the journey you've been on?
I think so, especially that coaching and mentoring side of things. I was asked yesterday what my career goals are, and one of the people that I was talking to, so part of my life now, I also teach part-time at TAFE. I teach heavy vehicle and plant mechanics there because I want to stay connected with my trade, and I love passing on that technical knowledge. But one of my kind of co-workers from another site, he was like, do you have like head teacher in your goal? Is that in your career goal? And I said, well, at the moment, my heart is towards supporting tradeswomen, and I really hope that I do myself out of a job. That I don't want to be having these conversations. Like just last month, one of the girls come to me that I coach, and she's like, "I've this rumor about me. It's career ending," and I'm like, "It's probably not," and I'll tell you how I know. To go through that, but yeah, I hope I do myself out of a job in the supporting tradeswomen specifically.
And you obviously mean you hope it gets to the point that you're not required because the world has reached an equilibrium and the world starts to make sense, if you will. Yeah,
that's it. But yeah, I think without the experiences that I had, I wouldn't be as passionate about not only preventing I hope I can prevent it, but even just making the girls feel not as alone if these situations do come up. I don't think I would have been as passionate, and I wouldn't be able to do it because a lot of that time, a lot of the girls drop their guard down because they know that it's someone who understands, who's not going to judge them, which is something that stopped me from getting help. Sooner, I had this relationship that went on, that was going pear-shaped, that had all these thoughts in my head, and I had a few people say comments in these women's groups, oh, yeah, you shouldn't, hook up with coworkers, like, that's so bad, blah, blah. And I'm like, awesome, okay, this is a secret that I need to keep to myself, like, so shameful. And that probably is what made it so much worse in my head, that it wasn't just something, oh, yeah, I made a mistake, people have relationships with people they're not supposed to, move on with life. That kind of was putting the finger over the valve for me. Just hearing some people say, that's not okay, you shouldn't do that. And I was like, no, okay, well, I can't get help for this because I wasn't supposed to do it. And then I kind of exploded when I was asked if I was okay. I never want to be the finger over someone's valve. If someone has done something, whether they did it on purpose at the time and now they are being like, holy shit, I've got different information and that should not have happened, the shame adds so much to that. And these things, 99% of things you can just move on from. They're not going to have any catastrophic effect. We can move on, but that shame keeps us stuck there. And I never want to create that shame for anyone.
That's something that we should print on a shirt, isn't it? Because after the bullying that you endured, when you then went through an investigation, I imagine in they found ways of getting you to feel shame about things you'd agreed to in the past. That really is one of the big words, isn't it? And for anyone listening, if they've made mistakes, if there's people having a go at them that start to highlight, and as we know, bullies are really good at finding a weakness. That's what they go for. They're not going to go for a strength. That's not what you do. That's how bullies exist, is they find the weakness and that's what they do. They aim for the ankles and they try and cut you down at the base and all that kind of stuff. My whiteboard of mistakes that I've made that people could have a go at me for, that they could bully me for, if you can remove the shame, because that's what they're trying to make you feel, aren't they, Louise? They're trying to make you feel ashamed and embarrassed and less and not good enough and all that. If we can just get rid of that, then the bullets they're firing, because I think the bullets only wound you when you are ashamed, when they make you feel ashamed. Every time they fire that bullet, it actually is made of steel and it does actually break through your skin, your emotional skin. But once you remove the shame, they become Nerf bullets. They bounce off you.
Yeah.
Like you just go,
That's
oh my God.
it. You remove the shame, and sometimes you can remove the power from the gun in this analogy.
Yeah.
Where most of the time the people that are firing the bullets, they are trying to distract from their own mistakes. They're like, let's put all this emphasis on the other person so nobody notices how poorly or not well that I'm doing. Let's highlight how not well someone is doing. And I like to, a lot of like my girls and my clients, when we're having these conversations, we run it through a filter. Is this person paying you? Do they have any impact on you? Like, are they going to judge your performance through yes, no, maybe? Most of the time it's no. And do you actually respect or want to be like that person? Should you be taking these words, they're kind of taking them as advice, like as powerful words. But is it just words from someone who you actually don't want to be like? Is this someone that the only thing you're learning from them is what you don't want?
Everyone does deserve to feel respect, safe, and to have a leader with some kind of support, or to be led with support. So if you're not getting that,
mentally and physically safe. Both levels are very important.
Yeah. Mentoring others doesn't just mean you're helping them. You can kind of help yourself in the process, can't you? Like teaming up with someone, going, how are you going? I've felt that too, or I'm feeling that. I mean, do you feel that sometimes with you helping other people, it helps you as well? Because you're not a 60, 70-year-old soul that has a lifetime of experience. Like you and me, we're still learning in life. Do you find helping other people and advising other people actually reaffirm some of those thoughts for yourself as well in your growth journey, continuing to grow as an individual?
Definitely. So it gives me the satisfaction that I am helping someone else, and it kind of fills my cup that way. But a lot of the things that I am telling them are things that little Louise needed to know, that 15-year-old Louise needed to hear, and even just giving myself the opportunity to, okay, I needed this. I wish someone had said this to me. But now I can go back to those memories that, sometimes if I am in a mental health down point, I need to give myself that advice. Like, yes, at that point when I'm replaying those things that kind of went a bit pear-shaped that I used to bully myself, I give myself the advice that I would be giving others, that it was okay, that you did make a mistake, you were young, it's not that serious. To tell myself those things, to even just make those memories feel a little less harsh. It's kind of, even though you're mentoring a physical person, sometimes you're mentoring your younger version of yourself as well. Yeah,
because that younger person in you that gets hurt, I don't reckon ever leaves you. Because there's a 16-year-old version of me that still lives inside me. And sometimes someone can say something to 55-year-old Shane Jacobson, and the 16-year-old Shane Jacobson feels it. I don't. It's so weird to explain, but I'm guessing people will get what I'm saying here, that I'm big enough now to go, oh, mate, whatever. But there's something in what they say that used to hurt me when I was 16, and that kid gets hurt. It's a weird one to explain. You said something that that I couldn't help but notice. You said when you used to bully yourself. So when you got self-doubt, that's what you say. You got to the point you were bullying yourself inside your own head.
Yeah,
That's a great expression.
Sometimes one of the things where bullies really take hold, like I said, sometimes people will say things out of anger in the moment. They have a low period. They've said something to you. They might not be a bully, but those words have been said. And then sometimes there is the bullies that say things over and over again. But where their power sometimes amplifies is when those voices become your inner voice. When you have, I've got a few clients where they had a particular bully and we're like, so is Dennis speaking or is it you speaking? Who is saying these words to you in your head? And I think that's really important to acknowledge, like, are you bullying yourself? Are these your words or are these someone else's words that have just embedded into you you're letting them, not like you're letting, when you're aware of them, then you are letting them keep going. But if you're not aware of them, you just think that's you. That this is how it should be. Like, these words should be said to you over and over again. But 99.99% of the time, even 100% of the time, no. These words, don't bully yourself.
Yeah, and we do. I think we all do it. And while we're on the subject of all of us, just so the people listening get that, we're not making it for a moment that we have the answers for everything and that, we live an unharmed life. Just to prove to everyone listening that you and I are still normal. You do still have it. The way you spoke before, you said something that made me realise you do still have moments when you have a down day as well, and you've got to reapply your own ointments back to your own wounds yourself. You've got to actually apply your own first aid to fix yourself back up again. So you still have those days, which we all do, when things just aren't going how you'd want them to or how you perceive they would go, and you've got to apply some of your methods to yourself again.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I'm teaching part-time at TAFE. You're coming across all different personalities in all different type of situations. People say things to you on accident, by purpose in that situation. I'm always learning and growing. So learning and growing, always still making mistakes. And, life is happening all the time. And, the natural rhythm of life, good things happen and not good things happen. And just because I'm up here, I call myself a mentor and a life coach, does not make me, I tell myself, it does not make me exempt from the human experience. I am still a person. I still make mistakes. I still lose people that I love. I still do things that I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I should do some work on that. Or I need to set a boundary. I let that go too far. When you're working through life, things are coming at you, and sometimes you respond how you want to, and sometimes you respond in the moment without having a second thought, and then you think back on them and you're like, oh, I should have done something different. And even that low energy, physical low energy, different diagnoses for mental health diagnoses as well can change everything. So I've personally been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder earlier this year. So changing medications has kind of changed my emotions, and I'm learning to readapt to that, and that is part of that journey.
Can you explain to our audience what that entails for you, what that means, what you experience with well, not just by getting the diagnosis, but by having that?
Yeah, so for me, borderline personality disorder is kind of extreme highs and extreme lows quite quickly, and this was something that's been happening for quite some time. I was in a position where I was being kind of like praised for the extreme highs. I was doing the WorldSkills competition. I was putting myself forward a lot. But then the extreme lows were really, really hard. And one of the things that I had asked myself was, do I think this is a reasonable response to this situation? Because different situations would trigger it. And sometimes the answer was no. No, I kind of overreacted to that. And when I started to put things in place for myself, being more aware, I'm like, it feels a bit out of my control. I think I need more help with this. So that's where I went through the medical system, got put on, I'm now on a mood stabilizer, which changes the way that I feel. And that it's something to adjust to. It's definitely something that is not the same for everyone. The process is not the same for everyone. Everyone's symptoms are not the same. But then people react different to not only mood stabilizers, but to antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and we're also different in different situations. So I think sometimes for me, it's important to realize if I'm having a downtime or a different response, feeling more angry or anything like that than I would want to, it's kind of like, okay, take a step back, all right, this is not me. This is something that I'm working on, and really kind of taking away the shame. Shame was one of the things that come up. So for me, going through the process, yes, I had these extreme highs and lows, but I added the shame onto it. And the shame was really hurting me. Once I took the shame away, then I could look at what was actually happening and be like, okay, this is something that I need further help with. Rather than shaming myself for having those feelings, I took the shame away and I was like, okay, cool. Is this something that I don't want to happen anymore? Yes. How can we prevent this from happening, or how can we work to stop this from happening? We seek medical help. So taking away that shame actually allowed me to take steps to get further support, and support that is specific to me and my needs.
One of the things you said there has kind of stuck on me, if you will. It's sticky. It's like a bit of honey. I can't get it off me now. When you said, is this an appropriate response, in your situation, with your diagnosis and the way you process things, you ask yourself a question, was that the appropriate response to something? Or maybe I'm responding too much to that. I think that's a great thing for people to apply in any situation, irrespective of how their mind works, because we can catastrophize it. Something happens, I've got some business dealings going on at the moment, and some things have happened beyond my control. Some other things went wrong in some other areas, some personal stuff and some other business stuff. And I started to really feel the pressure of it, because there were 3 or 4 things now happening, and I found myself not sleeping that well because I'd wake up during the night worrying about them anyway. And it was my wife that said to me, all of these independently you could deal with quite easily any other day. And none of them are as big as you're feeling it with all 4 of them happening together. And she said, but all of them, ordinarily, she said you would walk past and go, oh, yeah, I can fix that, I can fix that, I can fix that, I can fix that. No worries. She said, but you've somehow stacked them and you've put them all on top of each other, and 4 things that are of a bit of a problem you've now put into a stack, and now they're weighing me down. And now they all feel really big, or big enough. So it does all get to the point that you think it's all massive because everything around you seems to be going wrong. And what we do tend to ignore is the 400 things going right in our life,
Yeah.
So thank you for telling us how you manage your situation, because I think that's advice for all of us to take on board. Just keep checking how you're feeling about a circumstance, and ask yourself, is this an appropriate response, or are you reacting too large at something that's perhaps not that big a deal?
And it also works the other way as well. I've seen it where some girls have told me a story about something that's happened at work, and I call it making molehills out of mountains, like they're making bigger things smaller. And sometimes, I say this lighthearted now, but in the moment, not at all. But some of the girls are telling me something that happens, and they're like, if they were just joking. And I'm like, girl, maybe you should go to the police. This is not absolutely a joke. And we do it both ways as well. So I think that's something really important to consider. Not labeling people or whatever, but if someone identifies themselves as a high achiever, I find more often that they will be making molehills out of mountains. But it's important to check ourselves both ways. Sometimes something big is happening and we're downplaying it, and sometimes something small is happening and we're kind of upplaying it. And it's good to check in on that. And one tool that's really useful that I think everyone should see, I don't know if you've seen it, Shane, the feelings wheel. So it's a wheel, with all the feelings. So that can really help us identify feelings rather than something lumping into overwhelm, which you listed a fair few things, things that are going to delay your time, flat tires, all that. Sometimes they can feel overwhelming, but sometimes they're an annoyance. I find that something that is an annoyance is outside of me that I'm looking at, that I can problem solve. If something is overwhelming, it is I am overwhelmed is usually the statement. So separating those two, and even identifying what is overwhelming and what is an annoyance can sometimes take it outside of ourselves and make it something that we can look at and problem solve, rather than in ourselves, I am overwhelmed, this is me, kind of talking to ourselves like that.
Some of the small things they do let go. You were saying, and you always talk about building boundaries, realising maybe you didn't build a boundary quick enough. That you've got to remind people sometimes just one match can start an entire bushfire. But it's putting it out quickly that stops bushfires, isn't it? Now, I want to thank you so much for one, coming on the show and taking time out to share your story. And you're so brilliant at being honest about all of it. And I love the fact that you're so willing to say you've been through a journey where you were bullied and you've come out the other side, yet you still deal with stuff on a day-to-day basis, because we're all a work in progress, aren't we? I mean, I'll be honest, I think all of us as humans are a work in progress until the day we die. We've got things to work on and things we've got to self-check and support other friends, and sometimes we need to be supported. And that's what I like about the fact that, for the most part, a lot of us blessed with two hands. We have one hand to offer someone as a gesture and another hand to hold out when we want someone to pull us down a dark tunnel, you know what I mean? So that's why I think we've got one hand. We can put one hand forward and one hand behind us. So that's how a daisy chain works, you know what I mean? You all grab hands, and sometimes you're pulling people off a ledge, and sometimes it's you having to put your hand up and be pulled off a ledge yourself, and you do that so well. I do want to say one more thing. I'm going to repeat it again. I just want to tell the 15-year-old you, if we can rewind the clock to you being 15, I can't believe how brave you were and how brave you are as a result, that you went in at 15 and decided to go in and become a diesel mechanic, and it's something I can't do. So you have a set of skills that I admire. I've got some trucks. I've got some trucks in the business, and I don't know how to fix any of them. So, Louise Azzopardi, I may be calling you when I'm laying under a truck and I can't get that thing to make noise. Now, have you got just a couple more minutes to play a bit of a fun game before I let you go?
Yes, I do.
All right, couple of quick fire questions here, Louise, just to have a little bit of fun. As much as you fix trucks, you've been on the road as well. If you could change one, if you were in charge of all the roads in Australia, what would be one thing you'd want to change about our roads in Australia?
Maybe not the roads, but the maps.
Go on.
Knowing where tunnels are that you can't take dangerous goods, knowing where the hills are, knowing where, you're overweight and you can't go on that road. Google Maps doesn't tell you that. And if you're not going on the same route every day, you've got no idea. You turn left here and you're like, that says no 5 ton and over, so I can't go there. Or look, there's a tunnel and I've got dangerous goods on. What do I do now? Just knowing that information, that would be so handy.
Great tip. All right, last one. If you're on a long drive, because you do have a HR license, as you've said, what's the song that brings you home? Long journey. Is there a song that comes on in your head or in the cab that's your favourite song to kind of finish off a long drive, long haul?
I've got the two really long songs. There's American Pie, which I love that one, and Bohemian Rhapsody. Especially when we're like that 10 minutes from home and you need that extra boost. They usually get me home.
American Pie, Don McLean, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's Don McLean, isn't it? By Miss American Pie.
Yes.
Yeah, Sweet Home Alabama's one that if it comes on, I don't care where I am. I want to floor it. I just want to floor the car.
Yeah.
Now, Louise, before I let you go from our podcast, you've got a podcast of your own. I reckon now's the time to plug it. Go for it. Free plug.
Yes.
It's all yours.
So I have a podcast. It's called Building Confidence. It was originally called Anxious Tradeswoman, but now it's Building Confidence. I've got 100. I wanted a name that I felt comfortable acting under, and I was like, I'm not lying if I tell everyone that I'm anxious. But Building Confidence now. There's 119 episodes out as we record this. It's all little tips and tricks, so 10 to 15-minute episodes on like a lot of the things that we've spoken about in this episode, the making mistakes, different ways to move on from that, different ways to break shame, different ways to advocate for yourself if you're going through a HR investigation, some of the situations that I've found myself in that I've needed to get extra support and how to go about that. So 10 to 15-minute episodes. If you're having a issue or a struggle that day, you can put an episode on, come out with some solutions that you can implement the next day.
Go on, say the name of the podcast one more time. Go.
Building Confidence.
There you go. Building Confidence it is. And listening to it will do just that. So make sure you get your ears onto that. I'm Shane Jacobson, and you were just listening to the incredible story of Louise Azzopardi. She's an inspiration, to say the least. This is what you've been listening to, in case you haven't figured it out, is how you're travelling from healthy heads in trucks and sheds. For more stories that hit home, check out the other episodes wherever you get your podcasts. I mean, where do they get their podcasts? Where do you get your podcast from, Louise?
I get mine on Spotify.
See, there you go. Let's see wherever you get them from. So for you, it'd be Spotify. And if you ever need extra support, the Healthy Heads app has tips, tools and check-ins to help you along the way. Look after yourself out there, folks. We'll see you on the road. Louise, you've been my guest for today. I don't want to be the one to say goodbye to our listeners. Can you do it for me? You know how to do a podcast. You've done over 100 of them. Away you go.
Yes, thanks Shane for having me on, and I'll sign off as I sign off for my podcast. If you don't believe in yourself right now, please borrow my belief in you. I know you can do anything that you put your mind to. You might need to have a nap and have a snack first, but I know you can do it. And I'll see you in my podcast, so hopefully go check that out.
Boom! What a way to finish an episode! See you on the road, folks!